Good evening, people of America. This is the 2048 State of the Union Address. Now, normally I would be making this address in front of Congress. However, Congress is currently in an undisclosed location, and while the second choice would be the White House in the Oval Office, unfortunately the mortgage on the White House has been foreclosed. So we have set up a temporary office here. Now, before we begin, I would like to extend a big warm thank you to Mrs. Eddleton's first grade class for creating this replacement for the official seal of the President of the United States. As the government is tightening its belt in every way possible and is looking for every avenue to make more money, we had to pawn the original seal for the President, unfortunately. I'd also like to apologize to the same first grade class for taking the crayons away after they were done creating this seal, as we found a Swedish millionaire who was eccentric who was willing to pay $1 million for those crayons as a collector's item. Now, when we get the budget space, we will send you more crayons. Our plan is that by 2050, there will be one crayon per student. After all, if our students are capable of making works of art like this one, that is not quite how official is spelled. Once we get the budget space, we are going to have to look into improving standardized tests. Anyway, I am pleased to report that our nation is still strong. Please save your applause, as there is a great deal to cover. There is more cause for hope now than ever before, despite the fact that our government has had to shut down all Medicare, Social Security, unemployment, and welfare benefits so as to pay off our rampant national debt from the last half century. We are finally beginning to recover. And if our current rate of production keeps up, we may have our national debt paid off by the year 2105, if our most optimistic projections are indeed correct. That's right. Our grandkids will be able to raise their children in a free nation. Well, technically this nation is free, provided you don't have any debt that nails your feet to the floor, that is. On another note of hope, the rate at which we are finding elderly persons dead in their homes is finally beginning to slow down. After 15 long years. That's right. Whether it's on account of starvation or freezing to death because they can't pay the sky-high heating bills, or running out of money and not being able to pay for prescription drugs, or heck, I don't know. It's all over the place. Committing suicide because their favorite TV programs have gone bankrupt and can't show anymore. The rate is finally beginning to slow down. Our experts believe that the reason why the rate is finally beginning to slow down is that most of the elderly who are doomed to die in this fashion have already done so, and that in fact all of them will be dead by the year 2052, within 4 years. Now, our government's stance on this is that, as we have limited resources, this problem is rapidly correcting itself and soon will no longer be an issue for anybody. Now, to get to the truly important points of this address, there is an announcement about the national debt. As the burden of the debt on the government is getting too much to bear, to the point where no one wishes to run for elected office anymore, we have decided that we are going to leverage the national debt onto the people. That's right. We are going to be parceling out the debt to individuals, businesses, families. That way, each one of them will be responsible for particular portions of our national debt. For example, the Chinese Qinjiang Nuclear Energy Corporation, they hold $150,000 in bills from us. We have decided to parcel that debt out to the Smith family of Connecticut, as they have one of the steadiest jobs in America. They work for a collections and repossessions agency. It should not be difficult at all for them to pay that $150,000 off within 10 years or more if they tighten their belts as much as possible. For another example, this Japanese corporation, which I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce this. I doubt that I could say it on television, even if I could pronounce this, but they hold $60,000 in debt from us, and we have parceled that out to an unemployed family, the Coopersons in North Dakota. We have parceled that small debt out to an unemployed family because our numbers regarding how much unemployed people owe anyway show that that is a relatively small figure even for them. So it shouldn't be too difficult for them to handle it. Yes, you can see we are being both fair and reasonable with our parceling out of this debt, and when we get down to it, it really is fair, because when the nation is indebted, the nation's people are indebted. Also, in the end, this is going to make it simpler for everybody, because one guy can be completely free from his share of the national debt, while the Joneses next door have people with carts knocking on their door trying to get their furniture and all their personal possessions to pay off their debts because they're out of money. Also, this strategy in the long term will also allow us to lower taxes for the first time since 2034. That's right. We will be able to lower taxes by 2073 if our most optimistic projections are indeed correct. Now, admittedly, this strategy in paying off our national debt increases the average American household's debt from $230,000 to nearly $500,000. However, as I have previously stated, this setup is ultimately simpler and better in the long run. Also, the governments of China and Japan have assured me that they will be setting up work facilities on American soil so that anyone who has lost their home, their job, their car, and all their personal possessions will be able to go to these work facilities to work to pay off their share of the national debt. Now, unfortunately, declaring bankruptcy is no longer an option, as our contracts with our creditors forbid and place a moratorium on all bankruptcy protection for small businesses, individuals, and pretty much anybody besides the largest of corporations, which are vital to our economy. However, if our most optimistic projections are indeed correct, we may be able to break free of that limitation as soon as 2083. As for the work facilities, I have toured a number of them myself, and I assure you they are safe, clean, and productive. Those rumors about them being horrible labor camps and sweatshops where average American Joe turns into a sweatshop slave with no name? No, they can't be true. This is America, the freest nation on the planet. And I have received word that the Chinese are treating our citizens in these work facilities just as good as they would one of their own people. Now, at this time, we will take a break for a word from our sponsor.